So before I start this video, I guess I should probably at least, for full transparency, I know people that have worked at Wizards. I know people that currently work at Wizards. And first and foremost, the people that I know are at the level where they nothing to do with this. I think the highest level I know would probably be someone who does community management. And trust me, community manager is a lot of trying to make bad news not as bad. Personal experience. But yeah, don't bother the people that are, actually trying to help. Don't bother the people, customer support. Don't bother the people on LinkedIn. Just send your emails and all that directly to the higher ups, or better yet, just cancel your Beyond sub. That is the main metric that they are looking at, is Beyond subs, because that's reoccurring income, and that is what is going to make the most impact and make the biggest statement. Really quick little bit about where I'm going to be kind of coming from with this little spiel. I am a father of 4. My kids are 9, 7, 5, 3, and they're all at the age where they would start developing what would hopefully maybe be a lifelong interest in games like Dungeons and Dragons, or just like tabletop RPGs in general. One of the main reasons, and one of the biggest reasons, that I was drawn to 5th edition was because of the fact that it is so modular. It's the modularity of it. Me being a big fan of modding my video games and spending hours and hours and hours of installing mods and then never playing the game, that was a very big draw for me, knowing that I could do the exact same thing with my players and my campaigns and all that. So this is also something that I kind of pass on to my kids as well. I personally believe that creativity is something that can't really flourish without collaboration, without, sharing information and things like that, which is why this really sucks from my point of view with everything that's going on. Long story short, the OGL has literally made it possible for greater diversity, representation, and just greater flexibility within a decently easy enough game system that we can all learn. And I mean, honestly, if you think about it, a lot of the third-party stuff ended up getting, kind of just cherry-picked by Wizards anyways, and they ended up in, rule books, the optional rules. I'm not gonna lie, I legitimately stopped paying attention to a lot of the mainline stuff because DM's Guild and Drive-Thru RPG are just a million times better, and the stuff there just flexes your creative mind and allows you to think outside the box in so many possible ways. I love it myself. I've, looked up modules to do, specific body damage. I know that that's a very challenging thing people talk about, but I wanted to try a monster hunting manual so you can roll to get materials off, monsters to build your stuff, like the game Monster Hunter, which is one of my favorite game series of all time. Me being a starry-eyed nerd with a lot of children, I've been kind of counting down the days till I can start indoctrinating them with, RPG fun. Sorry, my cat's opening up. Alright, so before we go any further, I'm just gonna say, if you want, up-to-the-minute information, unfortunately, you're probably gonna have to go to Twitter or, check out the Gizmodo article. I don't know how to... It's been a while since I've done this, so forgive me. The main thing I really wanted to talk about with this video, literally the whole reason I started doing all this again, is that I don't think a lot of people are thinking about, or I guess at least talking about, what the long-term effects of this going to be. And I know a lot of people are citing basically the whole 4th edition generation, but I think that people aren't really thinking about this exponentially. Like I said before, I have a whole bunch of kids, and I started raising them on D&D. Right up here in my little, mini painting area, I have the Essentials kit, Eberron, Rising of the Last War, all the DM stuff, and I also got a lot of drive-through RPG and DM's Guild supplements as well. It's just such good content. Like many of you, I had starry-eyed dreams about taking my young children and having a marvelous time and a marvelous adventure, playing with our imaginations and rolling dice and maps and minis and all that fun stuff. It did not go that way, and they are, advanced for their age, despite the fact that they came from me. But man, character creation was long, and by that time I was pretty much done. That was when I realized that, as much as I love my kids, D&D might not be for them. Luckily, because of how open it used to be, I could pretty much just Tarantino the living crap out of it, take what I wanted, and, just keep the rest behind. Because I always assumed that was the spirit of the game. Wizards has been taking some good notes from our old good friend James' workshop, and they have been doing a better job of hooking them while they're young. I won't lie. I spent money on 1, 2, 3s of D&D, ABCs of D&D, and like half of the Young Adventurers Guide, because I wanted to find a way to introduce this game and this hobby that I love to my kids. And I wanted to do so, in a way that was, honestly, if you kind of think about it, in a way that was kind of like suggested to me. But I mean, up until that point, there wasn't a whole lot of good resources or good like public facing games or stuff like that are geared towards younger players and, parents who are going to essentially have to DM. Also add in the fact that there's a lot of very affordable, inexpensive, miniature agnostic games on like Wargaming Vault, which is a part of the DM's Guild drive-through RPG family, or whatever you want to call it. It's the reason that I got into wargaming over the past couple of years as well, and that's a whole nother bucket we'll get into sometime. But with all that being said, I mean, long story short, I realized that I don't really need D&D, and while I haven't been, I guess, as good as I'd like to be in exploring different systems, I can at least say that there are a few suggestions that I would make right now of stuff that if you are wanting to get your toes wet, or at least trying to find a way to introduce your younger ones into this beautiful, wonderful hobby or wargaming. So right off the bat, because I am on my little wargaming kick, I am going to initially recommend Frostgrave, and by extension Stargrave, and Rangers of Shadowdeep. Rangers of Shadowdeep specifically, which is more fantasy based, has like a lot of cooperative storytelling elements. Kind of one of those things where they say, okay, you have your team, you have these enemies, this is the situation, battle through, and then come back here and we'll see the results. And then, you level up and, you get other people to your team and all that other fun stuff. But anyways, good campaign. And then on top of that, they have a whole bunch of extra books, extra stories, expansions, what have you. Lots of online support, and that's going to be a big primary thing of, a lot of the things that I'm going to mention here is that most of these you can find on Drive-Thru RPG. I'm just going to tell you to look it up because I don't have an affiliate link or anything like that. And you are a big person. If you're watching this, you probably have kids, so you can do it yourself. But anyways, I try to remind myself that it's always about the journey, not the destination. So these are some games that I think do a great job of that. Starting with number 1. Alright, sorry. I won't do that again. So first off, we have Hero Kids. This is actually one of the first games that I found on Drive-Thru RPG. It is made, specifically for younger children. It uses just a regular D6 system. Characters have like 5 stats, strength, intellect, dexterity, health, and armor. That's it. And for each skill check, you're rolling up to 3 D6. Right off the bat, if your kid can get the concept of basic RPG stats, which, in my opinion, based on a lot of modern video games, I think it's going to be easier than you think. Hero Kids was created by Justin Halliday, and it uses a lot of your standard fantasy tropes, very lighthearted adventures. Honestly, once you get your whole group kind of just up and running, everyone gets to flow, you can go through a whole story, campaign, whatever you want to call it, in, hour and a half, 2 hours. That also, you got to remember, like, the big tip here, you're playing with your kids, so if you're a DM like me, and you like giving your players a bit of a challenge, they just want to have fun. I know it's hard to remember that sometimes, because you want your kids to be like these super clever, talented role players, but my kids are less than 10. Sorry, this is probably more of a reminder of myself. I think it's a great way to encourage and help your kids. Basic addition, basic subtraction, and also on top of that, they have a whole sci-fi version if you have a whole bunch of 40k miniatures like me, so a lot easier to use there. And they also have the Heroes Kid Content Guild, so there are extra stories, extra supplements, extra physical cards and things like that if that's what you're into, like me. All of that made by a very wonderful community of parents who want to help younger people, and maybe those who just have a hard time understanding a lot of the mechanics, to have an easy time to get a quick RPG game in. Alright, so up next we have Tales of Equestria. This is the My Little Pony role-playing game, and I know that there's irony in choosing another Hasbro IP, but I don't think that it's based off like the OGL. Like, it uses a polyhedral dice system, D20, D10, blah 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 blah. And basically, from everything that I've seen, I don't think this would be really affected by any OGL changes. The reason I picked this one is because, if you have a kid that is into My Little Pony, this is a pretty no-brainer. Pretty no-brainer. One of the things that I like about it from the materials that I read, a lot of it kind of keeps the same humor and charm, and apparently it all follows, the lore of Equestria pretty well. And yeah, hey, that's pretty cool. I'm a lore nerd. I love good world building, so I can always appreciate something like that. And once again, they have a whole bunch of modules on Drive-Thru RPG. Alright, so up next we have Wanderhome, and I love the description of this game, so I'm just going to read it directly. Wanderhome is a pastoral fantasy role-playing game about traveling animal folk, the world they inhabit, and the way the seasons change. It is a game filled with grassy fields, mossy shrines, herds of chubby bumblebees, possums in sundresses, salamanders with suspenders, starry night skies, and the most beautiful sunsets you can imagine. You might be a tamarin who dances with small and forgotten gods, a leoprene mail carrier who relies on moths to get packages where they belong, a little lizard with a big heart and a mysterious past, or a near endless number of other thrilling possibilities. No matter what, we're always travelers. Animal folk who go from village to village and get to see the length and breadth of the world of Heath. The seasons will change as we play, and we will change with them. So yeah, this is basically like Cottagecore, the role-playing game. It just feels like when you have a warm cup of tea in the evening while sitting in a log cabin with a wool blanket on your lap, and there's a fire in the background, and that fire is the only thing that is lighting up the whole room. It's just like a nice warm hug. And the way that the game was built, it's something that is supposed to be collaborative storytelling, so you don't really need a game master or someone to run it. A big focus and emphasis on care and safety, and just making sure that everyone's having a good time and feeling comfortable while doing so. The illustrations are just beautiful. It reminds me a lot of the the Mr. Frog and Mr. Toad books, the guys who would ride the Pennyforth bicycles. But also, you know, they cite Redwall, Miyazaki, and other charming anthropomorphic tales, minus the war. Other kind of tales like that are just good, wholesome times. Something that you would maybe play when the electricity's out and you got candles and everyone's sharing a blanket or something like that. So, yeah. Alright, my last suggestion for this video is going to be No Thank You Evil. This one is actually a any award-winning RPG, and this one is also probably like one of the best intro RPGs, not just for, you know, kids, but also, you know, preteens, tweens, whatever you want to call it. Basically, the way that the game works, you pick a couple adjectives to describe your character, and then from there, the game master presents a problem. As your players are trying to solve the problem, you know, using whatever way that they want, using the tools at their disposal, what have you, they can try harder and kind of push their luck by adding dice to their rolling pool. So there's a little bit of that push your luck chance, which maybe you can teach them about like odds and probabilities. I don't know. From that mechanic, it allows them to almost have those nat 20s or critical success moments and have that time in the spotlight more often, which I think a lot of younger players really enjoy about these role-playing games. The fact that they get to be the one that is the hero, they get to save the day, they get to stop the evil, they get to redistribute the means. It's really good for them in the fact that they can also be very, very clever about how they do things. While not really tabletop RPG specific, you know, my kids, and when we play tabletop war games, they have started developing their own strategies, and I've actually lost legitimate games to them because I underestimated my kids, and it's the best feeling in the world. Honestly, I think all of that because of the fact that I tried to teach them what role-playing games have taught me, which is as long as you at least have a set of rules to keep yourself kind of grounded and constrained and realistic, at the same time you can still be creative, you can still flourish, you can still find your place and your spot to shine. Another thing that I really like about No Thank You Evil is that it is scalable. So you could have your youngest child playing a noble of the court, or, you know, just your basic adventurer. You could have your middle child. They could be a, you know, more experienced adventurer. Maybe they would be like a paladin or something like that. And then you could have, you know, kind of like a teenager or an extra adult that's playing, and they would be like a super duper paladin, where basically they're just going to be the tank. Hi, I'm sitting down now because this is the conclusion, and I guess this is the summary of the whole video. So, if my math is correct, the time between 4th and 5th edition was about 10 years. As much as I hate to use this phrase, as a parent, when I think about, you know, things changing in the world, things affecting, you know, normal everyday life for people, of course I'm going to think about how it's going to affect my kids, especially in the future when they're older and hopefully out of the house. If you're watching this in the future, kids, you better be out of the house, because we're talking 10 years from now. So, well, okay, not all of them, just the oldest. So we're talking about a 10-year gap here. And you got to think about it like this. That's literally a whole generation of kids who are now going to grow up not only learning other systems, playing other systems. If they're going to be the ones to start, you know, running games for their friends when they start getting older, they're going to be teaching other systems as well. I'm very interested to see how local game store D&D games are going to change, because from everything I have heard and read and talked to about, Wizards don't care about their local friendly game shops anymore, and that is tragic. But yeah, all in all, I guess this is my ramble. Even if they end up kind of revoking everything and saying, "Oh no, we take it all back," like the damage has been done. You have literally given an entire community not only a common enemy to band together with, but you have also made sure that if slash when those people start teaching the next generation of gamers whatever game that, they're going to teach them, it's not going to be D&D, and then that's just going to make things even worse. I think the main lesson that we can take from all of this is that this is what happens when you promise your shareholders infinite growth. So while I know that all of this is to further monetize the D&D community, mainly the dungeon masters, I know that those chases for short-term profits are gonna be nowhere near enough to maybe hold out for 10 years worth of whole generation of young and new players that have heard nothing but horror stories of wizards. And maybe I think too far out in the future, but it doesn't make sense to me. If you made it to the end of this video, first off, thank you. It's been like 4 years since I last did an upload, and yeah, I want to try to make an effort more this year, even if it's not on a regular schedule. I want to talk to you guys about the stuff that kind of just, mulls around in my head. A lot of the things I want to talk about are really just like the media that we consume, mainly the games that we play, let's be honest, and kind of just like how a lot of that stuff for me has really changed about how I approach it and how I see a lot of stuff now that I've had kids, and especially the fact that now that those kids are starting to get into gaming and they are starting to discover their own genres and types of games and stuff like that, and I don't see a lot of people talking about that online, so I guess I'm trying to be the change that I want to see in the world. So I guess if you want more content like that, like and subscribe and all that stuff. We'll see. We'll go from there. If you really want to look at my old stuff, I guess I'll put a thing up. But, yeah. Thanks again for joining me, and I'm excited to be here. You can tell I'm genuinely happy to be doing this again, so let's go.